Hi, I'm Victor Miller. I wrote Friday the 13th, and you're listening to GenreTainment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of GenreTainment over here at SciFiPulseRadio.com. We're your hosts, Marx
and Julie, and GenreTainment is where we talk about what's happening in the world of film, TV, and web series. We give you interviews with writers, directors, producers, and actors in both independent and not-so-independent creations. And for today's show, we chat with author Sarah Beach about her new book, Creating Graphic Novels, Adapting and Marketing Stories for a Multi-Million-Dollar Industry.
She tells us about the book, why she wrote it, gives us some tips, and we even talk a little bit about Jeopardy of all things.
Yeah.
You have to listen to find out why. Now, we also have some bonus audio after the interview. I was on a panel at Boston Comic Con recently talking about creating web series and my new book, Television on the Wild Wild Web. Now, while there, I couldn't help but take pictures of cosplayers and do some quick mini interviews of creators at their booths. So please stay tuned after the featured interview to hear some of that.
Now, before we get started with the interview, we do want to mention that the music you just heard at the beginning of the show was a snippet from the theme song for our web series, Reality on Demand. It's a song composed and performed by our friend T-Sean Hardy. And you can find our web series at realityondemandseries.com.
And now our interview with writer Sarah Beach.
Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Well, before we start talking about your new book, which is Creating Graphic Novels, Adapting and Marketing Stories for a Multi-Million-Dollar Industry, we do want to go backwards in time just a little bit.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you first got involved in writing and graphic novels?
I feel like we should have that harp music leading into now we go back in time. Can you please tell us how you first got involved in writing and graphic novels?
Well, writing generally is something I've been doing since about ninth grade, but getting into writing comic scripts and graphic novel material is more the last decade or so. I got back into reading comics and got to know a lot of the professionals in the business and got intrigued by the form itself. The book itself came about because I have a lot of screenwriting friends who are also going, maybe I should adopt my script as a graphic novel, but they don't know anything about the comics business. And so they're going, I can just hire an artist out of art school and give them the script and maybe some screen caps, and that'll be fine, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, no, it will not be fine. So that's where the book started.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at first that Michael Weezy Publishing was making a book on graphic novels, because usually it's all about film. But you do explain in there that connection.
I actually had to convince them that this would actually be a very good crossover book for them, because so many screenwriters are going into meetings and getting I wish there was a graphic novel so I could see what it would look like. And so many screenwriters are looking for that, but they don't know how to get the foot in. They don't know how to find the artists. They don't know how to get it in print, those problems. And then there's the other side of a lot of the aspiring comic book writers. There aren't many books on story structure other than books on screenwriting. And so they know the Michael Weezy catalog really pretty well. Everybody's got a copy of Save the Cat or The Writer's Journey or Linda Sager's books. They know those books.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good crossover title for them, I think. And once Ken saw the material, he really got excited by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
being the editor.
I think it's a good fit, a good expansion for the line and such. So one thing I do want to talk a little bit about in your background, because it's in the book, a little unique for many of our previous guests, is that you used to work on Jeopardy.
Yes.
Do people sing you that song all the time when they find that out? And start asking you questions and then singing it to you?
Yes, they do. When I was still on staff, I used to tell my friends that if they hummed it to me during our taping season, I would kill them.
And everyone thinks they're being so original when they do it, I'm sure. Like, I'm the first person to ever do this. Do.
Yeah. But yeah, my position was actually as researcher, so my job was to verify the accuracy of materials. And it was a great place to be when you're a writer that's not making a living as a writer.
Yeah,
how does that process work? Do people just do you get assigned this group of people takes literature questions, this group takes history, or is it just everyone go out and find random facts?
Everybody goes out and comes up with categories, and actually all of the writers are expected to do all types of material. And then once the writers have come up with a bunch of questions for a category, the head writer sorts through them and says, these will go into this particular category. And once the head writers approve the material, then the researchers verify everything. We have to double-check sources and find second independent sources that confirm things. I mean, even things like Paris is the capital of France. It's double-sourced. Because after all, countries do occasionally change. Which city is their capital?
Occasionally, yes. That sounds harder than writing for those, night shows and stuff. I mean, that's pretty detailed.
It is very detailed. You have to learn how to read things quickly and understand what's being said and go, is the source question material that I'm looking at accurate by this other information? Do we have all of our facts in place? Are there any alternate answers?
Oh,
or
yeah.
not?
That's a lot of pressure because, there's tons of diehard Jeopardy fans out there.
Oh, they are just waiting for someone to make a mistake.
Oh, definitely.
Especially with the internet.
When I was on staff, we're on LA time, and 3:00 in the afternoon, we would start getting calls from the East Coast because Jeopardy airs at 7 in New York, going, there was an error on tonight's episode. You've got to tell Alex that it was wrong. We taped that a month ago. So, no, we can't get an on-air correction, and actually you heard the question wrong.
Oh, man, yeah. I was say, if ever there were going to be a bunch of fans that are know-it-alls, it would be fans of Jeopardy.
In the office, there's a database with all of the material, so the staffers can very quickly call up the specific clue and go, this is what the clue actually said, here is the answer, and what you heard is Alex's commentary, which we have no control over.
Oh, right. So how did you originally get involved with Jeopardy?
I was looking for a job in show business, and there was a blind advertisement for researcher for game show, send resume, cover letter to P.O. Box. And it wasn't until they called people in to actually take the contestant test for this that I found out it was Jeopardy.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of interesting because they had us all come in on a Saturday, and there were like 60 people. And one guy was sitting there and going, are these all the people that answered the ad? And I'm thinking, no, these are the people they called in.
Yeah.
Because after all, you want your staffers to be at least as smart as your contestants.
That's really neat. All right, well, so back to your book.
I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying the Jeopardy now.
Are you? You need to write a book about how to write for game shows.
Yeah, write a book about writing for your Jeopardy.
That's something no one ever really thinks about. There's a lot of game shows. Now, about graphic novels, Korean graphic novels. What experiences have you had so far with graphic novels?
Well, aside from reading a lot and knowing professionals, both the artists and the writers, and talking with them about their process, I have actually edited a comic book anthology or two and written a couple of short stories myself. Getting your foot in the door on the larger projects is just like working in Hollywood. It's a lot of work, and you got to keep being persistent. But it's an interesting format, an interesting medium to write for. So I will keep trying that along with everything else.
Graphic novels, comic books, and movies and TV shows have a great relationship because so many of them are getting transformed into
Yes.
to movies. Not just the superhero stuff like Avengers and such that everybody thinks of, but Cowboy versus Aliens, and the publisher who founded that did Men in Black, and The Crow, and et cetera, et cetera. There's so many.
No, I've never heard of those.
Well, it's funny sometimes people don't know.
There's an awful lot of crossover going on now. And partly that's because producers, they want a property that they know has at least some kind of audience. They don't really care if it's a big audience. They just want to know if somebody paid to read the story.
Yeah.
And, when they're looking at a graphic novel, an awful lot of story development, production development is already done for them. They can say, we got this look and we got this thing and we got to make these kind of visuals and costumes or sets. So, it's an advantage for them to have that shortcut.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, the optimist in me says it's so wonderful that graphic novels and comic books are really getting their due. But then a part of me feels like these, like the Hollywood, these producers, they're just being so lazy now. They're like, is it already drawn up for us or not? I want to be like, on the one hand, it's great for the graphic novelists and all that, but then again, it's kind of like, now we're just getting so lazy in Hollywood, we won't even look at original material that hasn't already been published somehow.
Well, like I said, it goes back to the question of, is there an audience? Which is actually the subtext for the producer, when the producer says, is there a book that I can look at?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's behind it, is they want to know, is anybody going to be interested in this?
Yeah.
Anybody at all? Because a lot of people making the money decisions aren't storytellers themselves. So they can only judge whether or not something has an audience. If it does have an audience,
yeah.
They can't say, oh, I can see people getting on board with this original thing here because it's fresh and unusual. Fresh and unusual is scary to them.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see numbers.
Yeah.
Hollywood adapted novels for the longest time.
Yeah.
All of the hit movies were based on novels. Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't care for Gone with the Wind. I'm one of the few people who just, that was such a chore. I mean, you get to intermission, it's like, oh my God, it's only halfway done.
I'm actually not fond of it myself.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. People just act like it's absolute heresy. I'm like, it's so long. And I really wanted to strangle Scarlett within 15 minutes. And that's being generous.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so obnoxious. I cannot understand why anyone cared about her. Yes, she's pretty. So are a lot of women. She's really annoying. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I get us off track.
And it's great, graphic novels and comic books, especially independent, they've really expanded beyond just superhero. There's all sorts of genres.
Mm-hmm. Superheroes are doing well now.
Yeah, superheroes are doing well.
They're doing them better than ever, I think.
I mean, look at Walking Dead television
TV
show.
He just says that because I don't like Walking Dead. It's zombies. I don't like zombies.
I like Walking Dead.
Well, it's science fiction and period stuff as well. Road to Perdition was a graphic novel.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of people don't know that.
Huh.
So.
Yeah, it's a great ground for other genres as well.
Mm-hmm. See, he just likes to make fun of my phobias, so that's really that's why he brings up Walking Dead.
Unless it's Shaun of the Dead, she doesn't like zombies.
Yeah, well, if I have nightmares, I'm making you suffer.
We really enjoyed your use of pictures and artwork in the book.
And you had Professor Exposition.
Yes.
How did you come up with him?
Well, when my editor made the suggestion of doing it in landscape and making it more graphic, was his words, because the book was originally intended to be, your basic prose with occasional illustrations throughout. And he said, well, what if it's more graphic? And I'm going, great, I can't afford to hire an artist. I guess I have to do it myself. And I actually do artwork, so it wasn't like this was going to be traumatic or anything like that. It's just I'm not a consistent cartoonist, so that was the challenge. It's like, okay. And as I started working, I realized the best way to make it more graphic was to have a character that did part of the explaining. A friend of mine was looking through the book recently, and he was going, oh, he was like halfway through it, and going, oh, I suddenly realized that all of these illustrations aren't things you can just skip past. They're part of the text. Yes, exactly. Because the intention is for people who aren't used to working in the medium, they may have read comics, but they haven't worked in it, to have to read the information in a comic book form, in the graphic form, helps them start thinking that way. Mm-hmm. The combination of the expression of the character, what the character is saying, the layout on the page, all of those things I started going, oh, I can be teaching them without telling them. You read the page across the top and then diagonally down and across and diagonally down and across. I can just lay it out that way and make them look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It makes it more exciting, dynamic.
Yeah, it does. It walks you through it nicely. I love the name, Professor Exposition, because, we love to joke about whenever you watch, movies or TV shows that have really clumsy and awkward exposition, now we're going to be very obvious and we have to state things that we all know, but for some reason someone is randomly saying it. And, exposition on parade. And I love this. Okay, here's some exposition. I'm calling him Professor Exposition. I can't make it any clearer for you people. This is what you're supposed to read.
Exactly. And the name itself actually came from discussions that friends had on a message board that focused on CSI, and this is in the early years of the original series. And we used to call Captain Brass Captain Exposition because at the halfway point, he has to recap where the story is so far. And it's usually Brass that got the job. And I thought, well, okay, we had Captain Exposition. I'll just call this one, because he's teaching, Professor Exposition.
I love it.
And I put in several images of him, and then I realized, I got to the point where in chapter 3, I'm describing out of frame work, and I say Professor Exposition is always breaking the frame. And I realized that nowhere before that point had I actually named him.
Oh.
And so I went back to his first appearance and I put the name tag on him.
Oh, yeah, you have it on a shirt.
So it's like, well, this is how graphic novels work. The exposition is in the image.
Very true, yes. He doesn't have to go, hello, my name is Professor Exposition, and I will be walking you through this book.
Because everybody knows what those, peel-off labels look like, so they know that's what it is, and it just registers, okay, this guy's Professor Exposition.
I'm curious, now you talk a little bit about comicsology and digital comics. So I'm kind of curious what your opinion is on the future of digital comics and how that's going to be either a good thing or a bad thing.
I think there will always be a place for print, because we just like the experience of turning that page, the hidden suspense of what happens next. And you don't get quite that same feeling when you're looking at things digitally, like online or on a tablet. That said, I think it's a great way of building an audience. I mentioned in the book how Colleen Doran has built up her audience during a period when she actually had to take a hiatus from working on her own epic series. And she did that by having the old material, on her website digitally available. And she did very well by that. So she's finally able to finish off her epic now, after, I don't know, 15 years or more?
It seems like a good option for independent creators because, I mean, there's already expenses, if they're not artists, of getting artists, and then you don't have to worry about the printing as much.
Yeah. Well, and I like how, you know, you can approach it like anything. It's a tool. You can use it to your advantage or not, you know.
Yeah. And in fact, one of my short stories, I've actually been in the process of coloring because it was originally done in black and white. It's one I use in the book. I use some of the panels from it in the book. And I thought, I should have this on the website by the time the book comes out so people can actually read the thing. It's only 8 pages. Unfortunately, it's been a low priority project, so I haven't finished the coloring yet. But yeah, I was, you know, like I said, it's 8 pages. It's easy enough to put up on my website. It would be another thing for people to come look at. So digital has its points. And Comixology, they present traditionally laid out material digitally. You know, so basically, it's not quite exactly scans of books, of print books, but you know, it's the print stuff. You can get a one-to-one correlation on that. Thrillbent is a newer version of what digital comics can be, and they're doing some very exciting things. They're still focusing, but not trying to do motion comics in the sense of, you know, semi-animation sort of things. They're still focusing on traditional panel art, but they're handling panels differently. And you have to explore their site and see some of their fascinating things. But they're still working, you know, it's still graphic storytelling that they're focusing on.
Is there a comic book or graphic novel that's out right now, independent or not, that you think would make a really good movie that hasn't been turned into one yet?
And please state the answer in a question form.
That's kind of interesting because the one I would have pointed to before is actually now in development for television.
Really?
What
is
is
it? Powers, reps?
Yeah, Chuck Dixon had it was actually a 3-part miniseries that he did years ago called Winter World, about, you know, it's about a society, how society is working after everything's been frozen over. He doesn't bother to explain how this happened. It's just the way things are. And so the remnants of civilization are trying to survive. And I thought, you know, this would actually make a pretty cool movie. Oh, bad pun, sorry. Pretty cool movie. And recently, IDW started a production arm for IDW Entertainment, and they had reprinted Winter World a couple of years ago. And so they're developing it for television, and I forget how they're planning to distribute it. But that's coming up.
That's cool. I haven't heard of that one. It sounds like it'd be really cool. We just watched Snowpiercer.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Snowpiercer the whole time you said you were talking about that. I'm like, we just saw that. Was it yesterday?
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. So that was the one on top of my mind. You know, I've seen many others that would be great.
It's a lot of exciting, creative stuff that's done in graphic novels, comic books. We're not limited by budgets as much. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Spectacular space opera or something like that. You know. No,
now you're talking my language.
It's all drawn. You know, you're not paying CGI.
There's not a lot of good space opera shows right now.
No, not right now. And I'm feeling the void here. You know, it's painful.
All right, so I know our listeners are a smart bunch, and
all 3 of them. No, I'm just kidding.
No, so I know we have a lot of them who are creators themselves, whether they're writers or web series creators or whatever.
Actors and artists and you name it.
So I was wondering if you just give a tip, either a writing tip or about writing graphic novels, either one. It could be in the book, could not be in the book, whichever, that you'd like to share with them.
Okay. This is partly because the last month or couple of months I've actually been editing somebody's novels, and this is a screenwriter doing novels, so there's some crossover problems. It's like you can write mise-en-scene and you're explaining everything, but you can't do that in prose because that's telling people. That's not showing them.
Right.
So, everybody says show, don't tell when you're dealing with exposition, and a lot of people don't register how show works when you're telling a story. How do you get exposition in? And for something like prose, and it happens in other forms too. Somebody comes in and gives an encyclopedic explanation of, the location or some tool or something like that, and it slows down the story.
Mm-hmm.
But if a character is engaged with it and we see it happening, the reader is being told, so-and-so runs out and this weapon is shot at the person and it has this effect. That's showing us. That's not telling us how the weapon operates.
Mm-hmm.
And that keeps the reader, because it doesn't really matter which format you're telling it, that keeps the audience engaged because it's happening to somebody
Right.
that we're connected to. Even if it's just in passing, it's somebody, another human being that we can engage with for a few moments. Nameless person runs out and is shot down. But we feel like nameless person. So, it matters to us how that happened.
Yeah. Do you think there's a lot of, when going from screenwriting to prose writing, do you sometimes think there's a little bit of kind of dumbing it down, not giving the readers enough credit for being able to understand what's going on sometimes, or because they're so used to having to show things in such a visual and be so straightforward, and then that sometimes they have a hard time? I'd imagine that would be difficult.
I think actually the hardest thing for a screenwriter going to prose is remembering to set the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Because, when you're writing a screenplay, you write the description of the setting very briefly up front, and you don't go back to that ever again because you've already set the bedroom. You've already set the
right, and it's really the director and the art department and all them are going to have to figure all that out.
Right. But when you're writing in prose, you may have described the bedroom, on page 1 at dawn or something like that. But later in the story, when somebody's coming home after a long day of work and they step into their bedroom again, it's a different place. And so you've got to say, oh, yeah, she forgot to make her bed this morning. In the dark, the comforter is all rumpled up, and she forgot to wash the sheets. So does she want to take the sheets off and put new ones on, or shall she just suffer with stinky sheets for another night?
Or she left her shoes in the middle of the floor and she tripped on them coming in because,
Exactly.
the lights were off or something.
Screenwriters forget those little bits of stage setting, unless, tripping over the sheets in the dark is a crucial plot point.
Then they fall on the body that's in the bed, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell the kinds of stories I read.
Yeah.
You didn't say the body in the bed was dead.
I was thinking partially decomposed, but okay. No, we're not making it a zombie.
I write a lot of procedural stuff and mysteries myself, so, the brain goes there. But yeah, it's all of these little bits of scene setting and reaction that people need in prose that screenwriters don't put in a script, because you're told not to direct the actors.
Right.
And it's like, well, just giving us the dialogue and not giving us the reactions in a prose text, it's like, well, how is the other person reacting to this? Are they frowning at it? Are they laughing at it? Are they paying any attention?
Yeah, because you're not going to have an actor interpreting that for you at all.
Exactly. So it's actually those things that are hardest for screenwriters to get when they turn to prose.
I can see how that would be a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they always tell you in screenwriting not to over-describe stuff.
I think that's probably the hardest thing going the other way would be you feel like, but I'm leaving out so much important information.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But you have to trust that everybody else on the project is going to do their job. You have to trust that the actor can handle fleshing out the character. You have to trust that the director can handle directing the actors, and that the art department can create it. And
yeah.
Right.
You can't be too much of a control freak.
I went from prose to screenwriting to comic scripting, so my train has been very strange. I mean, I would overwrite descriptions for screenplays because I was a novelist. It's like, but you've got to know what it looks like, and it's like, no, give them an idea of what the place is. I mean, I had one script very early on where I went into great lengths about she had lots of plants and her furniture was unusual and all of these things, very detailed, and a mentor, you might say, said, this is way too much. Just say it's like a garden. Like the art department sent.
Because they're going to tell you, we have the budget for 3 plants, 2 of them fake, and we can get you some wicker chairs. That's really all we can get.
Something like that.
Other than that, unless you want to supply it yourself, you're out of luck.
Well, for me it was hard because I was coming to it not just as a prose writer, but also as an artist. And so it's like, but I see it in my head. This is what I would draw. No, you don't do that in a screenplay.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it is.
For the screenplay. And you have to give up some control that you don't have to usually give up control as an author.
Yeah, control freaks need not apply.
Which is it's like varying degrees, because like you got one extreme is author where you control everything pretty much. Except what the editor makes you change. And then the extreme of filmmaking where there's so many.
You just let it go.
And then in between that is graphic novels where you have to work with.
Yeah, you still have to collaborate. You still have to kind of give some, but you.
Yeah. And this is actually something that kind of freaks out screenwriters, is the amount of freedom they actually have with a comic script. A few years ago, I was down at San Diego Comic-Con, and J. Michael Straczynski was talking about writing. He often does this, and he often leaves it as open question and answer. And one young woman, very earnest, stood up and asked, she explained she was a screenwriter and trying to get into comic scripting and graphic novels, and she wanted to know about formatting for comic scripts because somebody had told her that, like film, where there's a 1-page to 1-minute film correlation, there was a 1-to-1 correlation between the comic script and the final comic page. And I've seen Joe, as he likes to be called, speak many times, and he is very quick-witted and, responds fast. And it was the first time I'd ever seen him kind of like speechless for a moment, because he didn't want, when people are being smart alecks, he'll give them a put down right away, but he knew she was earnest about being a good craftsman, so he didn't want to do that to her. And it was just like, it takes as long as it takes. For a comic description, the description of what goes on a comic page takes as long as it takes for you to get the point for the artist to draw what you want. So there is not a 1-to-1 page correlation.
No.
It upsets screenwriters. What you mean? I've got freedom? I can't handle that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. From what we understand of Straczynski, that was a great deal of restraint on his part. But Marx and I are huge Babylon 5 fans, so like you said his name, we both went yay. We like did a quiet yay over it.
Yeah, when I can, I always go to any panel he's on. When if he's there at some event that I'm at and he's available, it's fun to watch him talk.
And with graphic novels, that could be one big panel, or it could be a dozen panels in there. So there is a lot of freedom there. There
is. It's one of the things I talk about. Perhaps not enough in the book itself, but panel size helps convey the impact of a moment. Hmm. And you want to make your big pages, where you have a single panel on the whole page, you want them to be moments of really big impact. If it's an epic moment or a huge emotional payoff, you want to give space to that moment because the reader feels that. When you make it a small panel and it's supposed to be a big reveal, you tend to undercut the effect of it. I once read a comic book where the writer had been building up to the reveal of a particular document. It was emotionally important to the character, and he gets it at the bottom of the right-hand page, and he's opening the envelope in that last panel. You turn the page, and what you would expect would be the character's emotional reaction to the content.
Oh,
and
but
what
it was
the writer put in was the document.
Oh.
A full page of the document. We didn't get the character's reaction until the first panel of the next page. And it was a small panel, and it was like, no, this is not right. I want to see his reaction. I already know what's going to be in the document. You didn't have to give me a full page of the document.
Well, yeah, I think that, any artist, writers, prose or graphic, I think sometimes they get so lost in the details of the words that they're trying to use and what they're trying to say or the pictures they're trying to show. It's like they're afraid of the quiet. Your instinct is to just gloss over the quiet moments and the silence or the stillness and hey, this is what it is. See, it's really cool, and it's kind of like when you're dancing. It's don't be afraid to stop moving if you need to right in that moment because that'll emphasize the movement, But
right.
Yeah, but it takes it takes courage to kind of go for that stillness in the art.
In this particular case, everybody who knew the title and the characters and that particular writer knew the writer was invested emotionally in having this document happen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so the writer's investment in the issue overran the sensibility of what makes good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus got put on the document instead of the character reaction. It's like, well, we know the document's important to you, but in terms of storytelling, we already know what it's going to say.
Right. See, that's
what's the character's reaction?
Yeah, it's the human element. That's why it's always good to have an editor who can go, yeah, see, no, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Or it's just some other third party going, yeah, no, I know what you're trying for, do this.
Yeah. And, when you go to working on something independently, that's the hard thing, is you're not working with a company editor who's keeping you on track. And so it's one thing I didn't actually go into in the book is finding the freelance editors who can help you with that sort of thing. There are some.
Yeah.
People who have worked for companies in the past that do freelance editing now. They're there to be found. It's just most people don't think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's yet another person to hire.
That's
true. That's one that usually ignored in independent comic books, I think, because there's
always
a lot
independent, self-published books, any kind of independent.
Well, self-published novels need an editor.
Yeah,
so.
I think everything needs a second pair of eyes.
For sure, but we need to start wrapping things up. I think we've been talking for a good amount of time.
I know, you're so fun to talk to, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, before we go,
let people know when and where we can find your book.
It's available on Amazon, and it should be in bookstores with film and entertainment writing, and hopefully lots of comic book shops will also be carrying it.
Yeah, I hope so.
I imagine.
And Michael Weezy, usually they sell their books there too, right? MWP.com?
Yes, they do.
And one more thing before we go, is there any other projects you wanted to mention that you're either working on or have coming up that you like to promote?
I am actually beginning work on another nonfiction book for writers about how to write a really good synopsis or treatment as a selling tool.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I have heard so many writers go, okay, the book is done, but the agent or the publisher or the producer wants a synopsis, and I hate writing synopsis. How do I boil this down? I've already told the story. So it's going to be addressing how to do that.
Ooh, I'm totally going to get that. When are you going to write it?
Well, like I said, I am doing some work on it. I need to interview some agents and editors about errors they see and that sort of thing and what they would prefer to see.
Okay, no pressure, but just as soon as you can get that out, that would be great.
I hope to get it done within the next year.
Woohoo!
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Robert Grant, author of Writing the Science Fiction Film, and you're listening to GenreTainment.
Well, thanks to Sarah for speaking with us. Now let's listen to some of those mini interviews that Marx did at the Boston Comic Con.
Hey guys, this is Marx up here in Boston Comic Con again, and I'm joined by
Rich Daly.
And, can you tell us a little bit about what you have here at your booth today?
I have a lot of kid-friendly comics. Right out of school, I had a freelance gig with a local author, and she hired me to illustrate her first book. And so I was doing that, and I since have got a graphic design job, but I've done a sequel to her book, and I've done 2 of my own books, and that's kind of the past 2 or 3 years since I've left college.
That's great. And so what's a good one here for people to start with, you think?
The biggest hit is Monster Mashup. It's a trace and create, build your own monster book. So I've drawn body parts from head shapes to eyes and ears, legs, noses, everything. And you just flip through the book, trace the parts you like, and then by the end of the book you have your own monster. And there's a website where you can post your monster to and add to the collection.
That's really cool. Sounds like a lot of fun. And then I see here Muffy Mac Mouse and Christmas in the Village.
So that's the sequel to the first book I did. Muffy McMouse was the first book that I wrote with the local author. And it's really a homage to her family and, a book to teach kids how to care and share. And she wanted to do a sequel, so we did a Christmas edition. That was the sequel.
And where can people find you online?
Poornightly.com. It's POORNITELY.com. It's the opposite of my name, Rich Daly, Poor Nightly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
No problem, man. Thank you.
My name is William Burke, and we're presenting Wild Bill Cartoons.
And Mark Bodie, voice actor.
So can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Currently, there are short animations between 30 seconds to a couple minutes long. It's just pretty much myself. I'll write the majority of the script, send it to my friend Mark. He'll read the script over with his voice acting talent, and I ask him to add his own insight on it too. Usually makes it funnier. And then edit it, show it to a couple coffee houses that show short films, and this is the first time at Comic-Con.
Yeah, I weaseled my way in. I said, man, your animation is great. It's sparkling, but you need some good acting and good audio to just make it punch people in the face. So I got in there and I said, what are you doing, you bloody lump? Why don't you get some real voiceovers in here? Ah!
So tell us a little bit about, Drunk De Dumpty.
He's just a miserable character, probably with a bunch of people I've met through my working career. So instead of being upset, I come up with some stories and ideas and vent it out that way. And I laugh a lot while I'm working on it.
Cool. And what about your Wild Bill cartoons?
That was the beginning. That's the company name, and at the first few cartoons, there's not too much it's not too much dialogue. And then when Mark came aboard and helped me out, I started focusing on more script writing. And the next few cartoons coming up will be more characters added with different dialogue to add more of a more dimension to the animations.
Great.
If I can improv a script that he sends me and just make it outlandish, and I can make a grown man giggle like a little girl, we figure it's funny enough to produce for the world.
So where can people find you online?
You can find wildbillcartoons.com, also on Facebook, YouTube.
And Drunk D Dumpty, drunk middle name D, D-E-E Dumpty on YouTube and Facebook.
Great. Anything else you want to add?
I want to say thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
I'll see you at the bottom of the barrel whiskey. Ah!
All right, thanks, guys. Hey, guys, this is Marx at Boston Comic-Con, and I'm here with some pirates, actually. Can you guys introduce yourselves?
I'm Throw Mayhem Brewer.
And I'm Grace Jiff. That's mischief to you.
So what's going on here? Who are you guys?
We're part of the New England Brethren of Pirates. We're a group of misfits that like to travel around causing trouble and chaos.
Cool. And you guys have a kind of elaborate setup here, and it has a pirate. So what's going on here? What's this about?
We actually are a charitable donation-based organization. We pick an organization that we help raise money for at every event that we are at. And today we are raising money to help victims of domestic violence through a cause called Live for Live. You can choose to play with pirates by fighting them on the plank with a game of skill, or you can have a nice photo op in our beautiful hangabout back there. It's called a gibbet, but most people call it our cage, or our babysitting service.
We've also brought our mermaid along with us today. Have a good time with them. Young ones tend to enjoy playing with Ariel.
Great. So how long has this organization been around?
The organization's been in place since about 2010, I believe. We've had various members, various different causes. We've donated to many different charities over the years.
Are you guys based here in Boston, or you travel around?
We're based out of Manchester, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
But we do travel quite far.
All over New England.
Okay, so that's a real accent. Okay. Oh, great. That's awesome. So you traveled pretty far then.
We do. Across the 7 seas.
All right, well, where can people find? I'm assuming you have an online presence, right?
We do. You can visit us at nebpirates.com at any time, and that links us to our Facebook and Twitter as well. The Book of Faces.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Enjoy the con.
Hey, guys, this is Marx again over here at Boston Comic-Con, and now I'm with
the 501st and Rebel Legion garrisons.
A lot of people have heard about you guys, and you guys have a neat little setup here. Can you explain what it is?
Yes, we have built a replica of the trash compactor from episode 4. And we also have a backdrop for, you could be an action figure. You can be mint on card in front of our action figure backdrop.
That's funny. Are you charging for this?
No, but we are collecting donations for the Shriners. It's the Shriners Hospitals for Children. Any donation is not required, but any donation is accepted for taking pictures, and all the proceeds go to the Shriners Hospital.
Great. How long have you been with the 501st?
Since almost 10 years. Coming in on 10 years.
And in case someone isn't familiar with them, can you just describe a little bit?
Yep, it's a worldwide costuming group for Star Wars. The 501st is the bad guys. The Rebel Legion is the good guys. We're worldwide, and it's a 100% volunteer group that does charity throughout the entire world.
See, I guess everybody likes the bad guys, because I hear about the 501st a lot. I don't hear about the
we
Rebels.
have cookies.
You got cookies? Okay,
yes.
There you go.
Under the dark side, we've got cookies.
Great. Anything else you like to add?
No, it's a great group. It's a great group of people. It's fun to be in it. It's, once again, volunteer, it's charity, and it's fun to dress up as your favorite action figure.
And where can people find the 501st online?
501st.com or 501neg.com for the local New England garrison.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I always forget about the Rebel Legion. Rebel Legion is also...
Forget about those rebels.
Yes. Alderaan Base is the local one, alderaanbase.com, and the rebellegion.com is the worldwide one.
All right, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Marx over here at Boston Comic-Con, and I am back again with
Eden Park Tales.
Jason Moores and Christy McDowell.
So can you guys tell us a little bit about your stories and about what you guys do for it?
Yeah. Eden Park Tales started about a year ago. We've been kind of tossing ideas back and forth. We're both very interested in fantasy and telling stories like that. And finally, one day, I was editing his first book, Illweed, and we were like, why don't we just work together and do some things? So out of that was born Autumn Gray, which is kind of our flagship series about a small fictional town in New Hampshire where monsters and fairies go to hide, and then what happens to the people as the magic starts to escape. And that's been going really well. We've got 4 issues of that. So that went into the next project that we're doing, A Planet's Cry, which is an adventure series about the world's time period starting to blend together. So the planet pulls a team of heroes from all the different time periods to rally up and save itself.
So we have Illweed as a book, and then everything else is comic books, right?
Yes.
Okay, so so are you both artists, or who does the writing, who does the art? I'm sorry.
I am the artist, and Christy originally was my editor, and then she kind of stepped into the writing role. So she's the writer, and I'm the artist.
Well, first off, what's Illweed about?
Well, Illweed is a new fairy tale. I was down in Disney, and I thought to myself, they keep rehashing the same fairy tales over and over again. Why can't they just write another one? And I thought, why can't I just write another one? So I just sat down and I wrote the story of every royal family has the heroic prince. Well, this is his brother. This is the prince that's looked at as a useless, villainous kid, and it's the story of him.
Cool. And then where did the ideas of Autumn Gray and A Planet's Cry come from?
Well, Autumn Gray, it's something I've had sitting on my shelf for a long time. You just walk into the woods and you feel like there are creatures in the brush and things watching you, and I just kind of took that idea and thought, what if there are things out there? And then it just kind of developed into a narrative with somebody who's hunting them, and boom, then next thing you knew, we had a comic about it.
What about A Planet's Cry?
So Planet's Cry is kind of response. I mean, a lot of it is in response to global climate change and things along those lines. The planet is changing in a lot of ways really, really fast. And I had the idea for the book of where the planet's like, whoa, you guys need to slow your roll a little bit. Things are starting to happen because of all the just overpopulation and the pollution and all the things that are going on in the world. Now this is the planet trying to kind of fix things and put things right, and I thought that was really interesting to kind of take that idea and give it a voice that it doesn't currently have.
So is this like dark? Is it for children? Is it where's that?
We kind of run the gamut age-wise. Illweed is definitely for a younger audience, probably at around a 5th grade reading level for reading alone, but it's got short chapters, lots of pictures. It's kind of designed for bedtime reading, like a fairy tale would be. Whereas Autumn Gray and A Planet's Cry are definitely teen plus. In Autumn Gray, there are some characters that, we don't pull our punches back as far as language is concerned, but that's not really the point of the story. It's just that there are certain characters that we didn't want to hide who they really are. A Planet's Cry is about the same, not as much as far as language is concerned, but there's some violence. There's a big Viking battle towards the end of the book that we really got into. So, that's would make it a little bit more mature, but only in the fact of, graphic violence, not so much.
Nothing you wouldn't see on TV before 8 o'clock anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that's safe.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. So you have a nice setup here. So and there's like paintings too. So what kind of art do you guys do?
Well, I do a lot of work. I've done everything from portraits to murals, but a lot of the stuff we have here is illustrations from the books and other fantasy-themed artwork.
A lot of the art itself, you can see, we've got the painting back here is actually the cover to Autumn Gray. We try to do a lot of mixed media as far as, not taking your typical, pencil and ink style of drawing. We really try to do something a little bit different with each book.
Great. And you both have pink ties.
Yes.
And
Hashtag guys in pink ties. That's us.
All right, so where can everybody find you online?
You can find us at www.edenparktales.com.
All right, fantastic, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Marx again here at Boston Comic Con, and now I'm joined with
Michael Schwartz, author of Ratara, The Legend of Damien.
All right, and can you tell us a little bit about your books? It looks like you have two of them.
Yeah, it's a examination of religious extremism and gang violence turned into a superhero action miniseries trilogy. The story starts off as two boys who are slaves for this group of thugs called the Khan. They make their escape on a stolen horse. They find themselves in the desert, and they're blessed by this unnamed divine being who equips them with some super capabilities so they can confront this group of bad guys who follow this creed called the Mari. So what these two heroes find out is that these bad guys are scouring the earth looking for these lost relics of this ancient vanished civilization called the Yedena. If they bring the lost relics back to the hidden capital city of Azandium, which is hidden in the jungle, and make what's called the reassembly in the Forbidden Chamber, they will be fully imbued with the full power of the Mari. They will secure the victory of their deity, and they will be able to overthrow the old alliance on Earth. So the two heroes find out that they have to stop these guys from making this collection.
Okay, great. And you may have said this before, but what kind of genre? Is this like the future, like a post-apocalyptic, or is this fantasy?
It's a cross between fantasy and adventure. Okay. I would classify it more as adventure. It's more of a Batman and Robin meets Star Wars, meets Al-Qaeda, with bits and pieces of Indiana Jones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, kind of a blend of all that.
So we have two books here, Rise of the Offspring and Feud of the Planes.
Feud of Planes, right. Book 3 will be out in December. The whole series is done. I'm not going to release Book 3 until later this year. I did complete the whole series before I released anything. That way I would have the benefit of retrospection. I would be able to go back and edit and put in what I wanted to in places throughout the book. So yeah, I'm excited.
Great. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on online, ratara.com. It's R-A-T-R-R-A. Also, Facebook is ratara.bookseries.
All right, well, great. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you.
Hey guys, this is Marx from GenreTainment up here at Boston Comic Con, and I'm joined by
Charles Paul Wilson III.
So it looks like you've done some really great books with Joe Hill, especially. I've heard of him from Lock and Key. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects you've been working on?
Well, I worked with him on a book called Wraith. It ties to his novel Nosferatu. It's about a gentleman named Charlie Manx who kidnaps kids and takes them to a amusement park of murder, where they catch people in there and they just put them on these torturous rides and stuff. Our story is about a group of inmates who are prisoners who are being transported, and they somehow end up in Christmas land trying to survive and find their way away from these kids.
That sounds really good. Lighthearted stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And if you love that, then you'll love our all-ages story. It's not with Joe Hill, but it's with Third World Studios, Mike Raich, and Brian Smith. It's The Stuff of Legend. It's about a group of toys who go into another world to rescue their boy owner, and when they get to this other world, they all become real versions of themselves. And the whole world is populated by all the toys that lived in that house that have become real.
Sounds really good. Is there any other projects you want to let us know about?
Well, I've got another book out that's based, it's coming out maybe in December, called Shadow Show by the Silver Water of Lake Champlain. That's based on a Joe Hill story, adapted by Jason Chiaramella, and artwork is by myself and Jeremy Moeller. And that's from IDW.
All right. And where can people find you? Sorry.
You can find me online, Charles Paul Wilson III, in Google. You can find me through Facebook that way. Twitter is at CPWilsonIII. And I have a DeviantArt account too, but I don't know offhand what it is. So just look for Charles Paul Wilson III DeviantArt.
Great. Well, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm George Straighton, screenwriter of Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess, and you're listening to GenreTainment.
Well, I hope you enjoyed those little mini interviews. Now, if you heard something you might like, be sure to check them out online. And coming up soon in future episodes, we'll be speaking to Richard Dunn about his viral video that has over 20 million views. We will be chatting with podcaster and writer Mur Lafferty. She's been podcasting about writing since 2005 and is winner of the John W. Campbell Award. Her new book is the urban fantasy novel The Shambling Guide to New York City. And in addition to that, very soon we'll be speaking with consultant and writer Lori Shear about her new book, The Writer's Advantage, a toolkit for mastering your genre.
Now, before we go, we want to remind you that you can keep track of us on our GenreTainment Facebook page, Marx's Twitter account, which is @MrMarx, our website at GenreTainment.com, or all of the shows at SciFiPulseRadio.com.
So that's it for today's GenreTainment. We'll be back soon with all new guests from our favorite films, TV shows, novels, and web series.
GenreTainment is a production of Alien Jungle Bug Productions.
Until next time.
Bad monkey.